I'm gonna call the public hearing to order. At this time, Southwest ISD, the SR3 ESSA grant plans. Who's presenting?
Yes, sir. This is part of our compliance and the process for designating SR3 funds and ESSA funds into our district. And we have Ms. Frances Barsones under Business and Finance, who has led this work and effort in the district along with Mr. Gross. And we're going to use this public meeting to present out from the task force and local action committees about what we're looking for as far as what we would like to plan with these funds over the next 3 years. And so I'll turn it over to Ms. Barsones and let her go through our presentation. It's a public hearing, and therefore we'll be available to take any public comment after she's completed.
Good evening, board members and any participants that we have in the audience. I would like to go ahead and explain a little bit about SR3 and ESSA. For the assurances of all federal programs, you must receive a plan as board members and approve the plan prior to a grant being submitted to TEA for approval. So you'll be seeing a lot more of the federal plans coming up in the next month. Right now, we're going to cover SR3 and ESSA, which is the Elementary Secondary Schools Emergency Relief Act, and ESSA, which is our Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV grant, which is Every Student Succeeds Act Consolidation Federal Grant. For SR3, we're going to look at that one first. We have an allocation of $32,934,389. Right now, we will be applying for $21,956,259. And the last 1/3 of that portion, we will amend later in fall when we receive that funds from TEA. Currently, 20% of that has to go towards learning loss, which is $4 million. And we can backdate any of our pre-award back to March 13th, 2020 to cover any of the costs that we've already expended through fund balance. There was a steering committee that had over 56 active members on this committee. The subcommittees were formed based on the intent of SR3, which is to mitigate the loss that the pandemic had in learning loss, targeted interventions, which is to address the needs of specific stakeholder groups or subpopulations, to ensure the daily operations of schools continue. That would be anything from lights, bus service, payroll, etc. CDC mitigation, which is to ensure that we have a safe reopening of schools. Also social emotional learning for students and for staff, leadership and well-rounded education. There were campus members that served on each of the committees. We had parents invited to the committees, and we had cross-divisional collaboration. At this time, the requirement is that the stakeholder, the community, be allowed access to the plan. So the opportunities we gave the constituents to have access to it was that we gave them a public notice that we were applying for both SR3 and ESSA. We sent out multiple forums. We had public meetings. We had 2 public meetings they could go to. We sent out parent links on the Remind. We sent staff links out. We sent out a survey to secondary students at the middle schools and the high schools. And then we created a brand new email, which is fedpubliccomments@southwestisd.com, in case anybody just wanted to send an email that couldn't attend a meeting or wanted to think about their thoughts and still be able to be heard. At the public meeting, we had over 70 parents attend. In the surveys, we had 1,227 responses to our survey. And now we're having the public hearing. This is our plan. We're going to start with the learning loss because that's where we find we like to spend the majority of our money, right where the students are. For learning loss, this is support learning loss that may have occurred during the closures, remote learning, and students who are struggling. We would like to provide additional support personnel to increase student achievement. Basically, instead of saying we're going to give you 2 kinder teachers or 2 extra reading teachers, we have decided to allow each of the elementary schools to determine their need based on what they currently have and what they need based on scores and grades. So this would mean that every single one of the elementaries receive 2 extra full-time employees to do what they need based on their specific need. Schools that are in improvement may receive an extra FTE because they're in school improvement. We also provide 60 hours of professional development for reading academies, which allows those teachers to receive a stipend to spend their summer getting certified in the reading process to help with learning loss, and to provide tutoring services, even outside vendors to help provide additional tutoring services throughout the school year for the next 3 years. The last thing is to build upon our reading opportunities. One of the things that the parents wanted most was a more robust reading program to get their kids back to reading and put books in the hands of students, and that's what we're going to be doing for the next 3 years. For middle schools, very much the same. We would like to provide additional support personnel for them. They can choose whether that's an academic coach, an ESL teacher, or a reading content teacher based on their need. This would provide 3 extra FTEs for every middle school, and then 1 additional if they're in school improvement. We would like to provide extensive tutoring services, including external tutoring services from an outside vendor for the next 3 years. And then we would like to also put the books in the hands of middle school kids who may be reading a little bit below level because they haven't had the opportunity to read as much for the next 3 years. This would also include things that they would like, which include incentives, contests, and graphic novels. For high school, they would receive 4 additional FTEs to reduce class sizes, get a counselor, whatever their specific need is for their campus. In addition to that, we would provide extended day and Saturday services. And this would go everyone from the struggling student all the way to the advanced student who may need to prep for PSAT, TSI to get ready for that college career readiness. We want to make sure we allow them to tutor anybody who's prepping for the next step. In addition to that, we want to make sure that they also have a robust program for reading. And so we've included them into that. Operations and continuity of service. This would be to provide technology, which was our #1 ask of parents, to make sure that there's new technology to students, and software and internet connectivity, including hotspots. And then we would also like to cover some of the costs that we already paid out for those services. And then there will be operational costs such as payroll, which will go to all employees, including the scheduled tutors and substitutes that we've paid through the long-term closures, the stipend for retention, and continuity of any type of services that we may have. In addition to that, we want to provide better airflow to some of the older school facilities by upgrading the HVAC systems. And then we would like to purchase more of our yellow fleet air-conditioned buses for those students who have to ride to and from school, and also use buses for student activity services. In addition to that, we have CDC mitigation and safety. We would like to provide safety, sanitation, prevention, or PPEs to our employees and our staff, and we will also cover the cost of what we have already paid. In addition to that, we are going to provide PRC testing and types of COVID vaccines for our students, so they don't have to leave school to get their vaccine or get tested. They can do that within the district. In addition to that, we are looking at adding 3 different positions for health services to ensure that we have somebody who is a healthcare provider on each campus, even if somebody's absent on campus. So 3 positions.
Yeah, one, no, next one.
One of the more important things that the parents brought up, and that was also a big item for staff, was social emotional supports, which is to provide programs to support students, staff, and families with the social emotional services during this time. We would like to provide an on-campus tranquility area for both students and for staff at each of the campuses. We are going to upgrade our character education program to integrate social emotional learning. We are going to partner with external mental wellness collaboratives to provide referral services here within the district. And then we want to provide grade level camps to build strong student efficacy. So as they prepare to bridge into middle school or into high school and beyond, that we are getting them ready by making sure they're mentally ready and they're ready for that new step. Then we have targeted interventions, which is to develop strategies needed for specific targeted programs or subpopulation groups. We want to provide teachers to be used as dyslexia interventionists, and they would help work with EL students in small groups because we do have a need for that in the EL population. And then we want to provide developmentally appropriate safe outdoor play. So that would be upgrading the outdoor areas in the elementary. One of the biggest requests that we had from parents was to get kids moving again. And so this would be an enhancement of what we currently have for outdoor play. And lastly, we have well-rounded education, which is to pay for the Fine Arts Academy program, 3rd through 12th grade. It's an enrichment program, including art, dance, music, theater, to make sure that we don't just have academic programs. One of the requests that we have fun programs for students based on interest to get them up and moving and socializing and working with each other in their class. This is a first-time plan for us. We will be amending this plan every 6 months, and we have to have a meeting for that amendment every 6 months. So we will be reaching out to parents and seeing what they think about some of our plans, seeing what kind of enhancements they need. So for the next 3 years, you'll see this grant at least 6 more times. So just making sure that everybody is aware that this grant is amendable. And as we open schools back up in the fall, we may find new needs that we didn't even plan or think of. And at that time, we'll be able to take care of some of those things that come up or things that we want to enhance or dig into deeply. This grant is auditable, so that means that all actions require data, so that there will be data required for all this. Does anybody have a question about the ESSER 3?
What kind of data would they be requesting from us?
So for example, one of the ones that we would have to use is if we're doing tutoring services, how many kids have been invited to tutoring services? How many kids are actually utilizing tutoring services? Is somebody monitoring the tutoring group to show that they're increasing? Those would be some of the ones. Now, if we do buses, things of that nature, we probably don't need to do a data, but we already have data based on how long kids stay on buses and how many air conditioned, not air conditioned. So as long as we have data that showcase a need, the things that we want to monitor, the things that are ongoing, not a one-time purchase, to ensure that if we say we're going to tutor and we put $2 million aside for it and nobody's coming to tutoring, then we need to look at that money again and pick something that's a need that students will actually attend.
Is there
Right.
Is there like a time frame when all this money needs to be spent by, or so that way we don't have to return any of it back?
So the grant actually goes until 2023, but then you have 1 year of rollover. It's called tidings. And so it actually ends in August 31st of 2024. But we will be looking at this and the data every 6 months. So this will be something that you'll showcase and see, and we'll be able to bring some of that to you.
So you stated that the technology was a parent ask. Did you say that?
It was a parent and a staff ask.
Okay.
It was one of the biggest things. I would say it was actually listed as one of the things that a few of the students asked for also, but
Would you say that was
technology.
the biggest ask or the most mentioned of it?
I think that in the public meeting, the parents wanted a reading program and outdoor play, wanted to get the kids moving and reading. If you look at what was actually selected, technology upgrades and ensuring that there's new technology systems and that system they come in, they're working again, and making sure that we continue with the internet was the one that was biggest for both students and parents coming into this next year.
Was there anything that parents mentioned that you didn't, that maybe was lower down on the priority list that we weren't actually able to do? Or did
Actually,
we touch everything?
the subcommittee did a really good job. We gave them the charts, the data, everything. And so the biggest one that wasn't on our original system was to put books in the hands of kids and have the incentive. And they went ahead and bought into that and they put it into learning loss. So I think every big hurdle that we had was received. But there were smaller ones that were asked that were not, but that it was not a majority of people who went in for that
All the
one.
big stuff out of this.
Absolutely.
Francis, how many parents were in the committee?
So each subcommittee was able to invite one or two. I don't know how many actually turned and sat in that committee that were specifically only parents versus parents. I had two on my committee, and then at the public meeting, we had over 36 parents. And so they were able to, they were the ones that volunteered to be on other committees. And then through our email process, we didn't receive any more parent comments after that. I'm going to go into ESSA because I know that we're booked for time. So I'm going to talk to you about your Title I, Title II, Title III grants. And so this is the list of our consolidated grant, meaning all of these grants are in one grant together. For Title I Part A, which most of us know, we are Title I district. The purpose is to help ensure that all students have the opportunity to obtain a high quality education. So typically the way that we do this is we run 82% of that funding through campuses. We make sure the majority of the money stays at the campus level and the campuses are able to decide what to do with those funds. They select anything from paying for additional teachers to lower classroom sizes, picking specific teachers like academic coaches to help with instructional delivery. We also supplement McKinney-Vento or homeless funds. And then we buy supplemental materials and general supplies for schools. In addition to that, we want to make sure that we include the 15.4% that we use to help pay for CNI. We have several of their staff split funded to help out with the Title I campuses. So they go to campus to help them specifically. And then we also do our supplemental program at the end of the year, programs like the STEM or early childhood jumpstarts or things of that nature will happen through the Title I program, including some fine arts training. In addition to that, we also provide services for private nonprofit schools, which basically means students that live in our district that go to a private school somewhere else, we're obligated to pay that. We have Title I Part C, which is the purpose is to help give a quality education to my children. And 100% of that goes to our supplemental support services, which is an agreement that we have with Region 20. And so they help monitor and capture all those student needs, no matter if they're here with us in San Antonio or if they're traveling. Title II Part A, which is the money that we use to increase student achievement through improving teacher and principal learning. This is also helps promote recruitment, retention, and mentoring of teachers. We pay 58.5% out for additional personnel, and that would be at CNI, to go in and actually help principals and teachers. They plan their professional development. In addition to that, we pay 31.2% to contracted services, which is getting PD, anywhere from leadership to reading to math and bringing them in, so getting the experts into our district. And then also we do 10% to allow for personal travel to go to professional development, and that pays for registration, travel, gas, etc. Last year we had that at 0. This year we'll put 10% in, which is what we had the year before. Title III Part A is to improve the education of limited English proficient students, or as we think of the bilingual program. We provide 8.9% in additional support staff that pays for Mr. Gonzalez's staff that's at the central office level. We also pay for instructional supplies, curriculum, professional development, anything that is related to bilingual or EL program. We pay 75.6% for that. And then we have the supplemental extended year, which is a Scala program, which is 15.5% of that cost. And the reason we do percent is because we don't have a fixed number, because they keep changing our allotments. So as they add more money, we will be adding that. So it's about the percent. The last one should be Title IV. Sorry, it says Title I. That is to provide additional funds for instructional practices that align with curriculum. So I'll make sure this is not Nope. All right, we are missing the Title IV slide. I'm sorry. So I'm going to tell you what it is because I know it. So Title I present. So for Title IV, you're looking at a well-rounded education. For well-rounded education, we spend about 15% of that well-rounded education on technology. It was the first time we were allowed to spend it on technology, but that's really to represent what happened with the pandemic. So we were able to go ahead and expend that fund. The additional part of that fund is obligated to a well-rounded education for safety. So we pay for 1 FTE for our executive director of safety. In addition to that, any of the supplies and materials he needs to ensure that we have safety protocols in the school. In addition to that, for well-rounded safety, we also put in AHA-B, which is our anti-harassment, anti-bullying program. And we allow the director of counseling to go ahead and have additional funds to make sure that we have some services for students that, for the anti-bullying, anti-harassment. In addition to that, we take about 32% of that and move it to Title I services. And the reason that we do that is it's an allowable cost, and we put that into campuses to allow them to spend it on parent involvement. So all of that is geared toward parent involvement. They're allowed to pay for light refreshments, for parents, for presenters to come in from outside the district to present on anything from SEL to having the FAFSA band come in, or allowing parents just to come learn to be stronger parents and help with homework and reading protocols.
Is that like
Any of
what they
those-
do, the cafecitos and that thing?
Yes, the cafecitos, those are all paid for that. At the campuses that have them, some of them pay for watchdog programs. This past year, we did a lot of drive-throughs where they received articles and banners and things like that. This next year, we'll be doing more face-to-face and a hybrid with virtual, and so that will help pay for those costs.
Brendan, these are all additional real funds. I mean, we're not being cut anywhere
No, these are
federally.
the title fund, excuse me, ESSER are funds we get every year from the federal government. ESSER 3 is
Yeah.
the
Brand new one.
stimulus package. So,
Yeah.
but we have to provide these goals. We're actually applying for, we apply for Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV every year. So we had to kind of put it together.
And any new staff positions being created that we'll have to eventually pick up in our own budget.
The idea.
4 years
behind
down the
ESSER
road.
3, so that's the plan. It's ESSER 3. We're gonna add those staff members to every campus, and at some point, 3 years from now, we'll have to figure out a way to
Carry on.
pick them up through attrition. Part of the strategy is that since we're gonna reclass, so the district should see some funding going back. We're gonna go back into this year and reclass some things for COVID. And hopefully around 5 million to 6 million. And then we will put that in the fund balance and set that aside for year 4 and 5. So as we add this staff this year, the next 3 years, we have the funds to pay for them, but year 4 and 5 is where we have that fiscal cliff. And so having those designated fund balance, just in case we can't, because the only other way for us to pay for them is that we add students and our growth picks up. Correct. And right now, in our demographic study, it's 4 to 5 years from now, we should see kind of where we were a year ago. So we'll have to see how that looks, but having that money set aside and fund balance to actually make up and cover those. So we don't, in year 4, have to say, hey, all you employees that we hired during ESSER 3, we have to let you go. We don't want to do that. We'd like to keep them if we can. Yeah.
So that's in addition to the normal money that we keep aside, right? Is that what you're
Correct,
saying?
correct. The funding that first group of ESSER 3 funds are designated, those staff members are going to be paid out of those funds for the next 3 years. And after that, we'll have to figure out how to pay for them.
Any additional comments from anybody?
Any public comments?
I just want to say thank you. That's a lot of people getting together.
So is the last one that you all spoke about, that's like the regular basis that we get every year?
Yes, sir.
Every year.
And is that a certain amount of time that we need to spend on that? Or is that like different from the first one?
So for ESSA, it's basically, it's similar, but not as long. It's a 1 year. But then we have what is called rollover. So we have up to 15% that we're allowed to roll over annually. And so we try to keep it less than 15 because we really want to spend the funds at the time that we have students.
Was there any rollover for this year?
We did.
This year they will be, because last year we had to cut off, because we stopped in March, which is our busy buying time.
Mhm.
And so everything that wasn't received had to be canceled. So they, TEA allowed you to roll the entire rest of the grant over.
Oh, that's good.
This next year, they'll be doing the same thing. So anything that we hold, we'll be able to roll the entire amount over, but next year will be the last year we're able to do that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, big thank you to Francis. I mean, she kind of led a very
Okay, once again, no public comments on SR3 or ESSA? Nope. This meeting is closed at 5:55. We'll reopen regular meeting in 5 minutes. Call this meeting to order at 6:02. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. We'd like to begin today with the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Yes, sir. We have Ms. Janice Hernandez, Director of Communications.
Let us reflect on how to best serve the students and staff of Southwest ISD. Allow us to work together well, to listen and respect each other's talents and skills, and to be watchful and mindful of the responsibilities we hold as a governing body. May we rejoice in the privilege of watching our students grow into enlightened citizens of the community, and may we maintain focus on the dreams and aspirations of those we serve. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Okay, now we'll go right into recognitions. And I bet that's still you.
So we have a very special recognition tonight, and with more information on that, I'm going to bring up Sergeant Gilbert to talk a little bit about this great program that the Southwest Police Department initiated called the Promise Program. So we have some very special students in the audience as well that will be recognized. Oh, Chief Paloma, there you are.
You recognize him in uniform.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Richard Palomo. I'm District Police Chief, Mr. Board President, board members, Dr. Bursa, the staff, esteemed colleagues, and guests. Tonight is a very special evening. This program has been in the making for about 5 years. This program is a diversionary program for first-time juvenile offenders. We started 5 years ago, worked through some issues, some challenges. We finally got Bexar County Juvenile Board to sign off on the program. Our board signed off on it. We developed an MOU, and the program was scheduled to kick off last year. Of course, COVID hit, so that threw another wrench into the program. But we worked through all those issues. I have to commend my staff, Sergeant Gilbert, who is the program coordinator, Officer Velasquez, who's a program specialist. They fought through those issues, and they reached 3 of our students. And this program is a game changer for students here in Southwest and here in South Central Texas. This program is first of its kind. It's allowed under Chapter 52 of the Family Code. So what does PROMISE stand for? I want to give you a little background before I turn over to Sergeant Gilbert. PROMISE stands for Preventing Recidivism Through Opportunities, Mentoring, Interventions, Support, and Education. As I mentioned, this is a diversionary program for first-time juvenile offenders between the ages of 10 and 16. It's not a get out of jail pass. You have to work for this. And it consists of 2 phases where the student and the parent or guardian have to participate in this program. 6 weeks on Saturdays. This program gives kids a second chance to reset and get back on track and become successful, not only in this community, but our city. And studies have shown that students that participate in this type of program are less likely to reoffend. And that's what we want. Like I mentioned, it's first of its kind here in Burke County, South Central Texas. This program, I strongly believe, has the potential to be a state model and a national model for other districts to follow. So tonight, we are going to recognize our first cohort. We're going to start our second cohort here in a couple of weeks. We have 3 candidates for that program. So these kids tonight are being recognized for sticking with the program, not giving up. It wasn't easy. It was on Saturdays. Their parents and guardians had to be at these meetings, and some of these meetings were virtual meetings. So of course, there's always challenges with virtual meetings. Zoom, everybody knows about Zoom and the issues that you have with Zoom. But we worked through those issues, and tonight we are going to recognize them for their hard work and their second chance to be something successful in life. But before I do that, I'm going to go off script. I want to recognize Officer Velasquez. She's one of our newest officers here. She was recognized today by her peers as Officer of the Year, Southwest ISD Police Department. So stand up, please. This young lady has a lot of potential. She has a great future ahead of her. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Sergeant Gilbert, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the program.
Thank you, Chief. Ladies and gentlemen here, honored members, I just want to tell you, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, because taking this program and letting Chief letting me ride with it and push it forward, and then gaining Officer Velasquez to come aboard, it was really eye-opening to me, because we got to touch our district in a different manner. We got to reach in a different light. And seeing the students that are here today, Bethany and Madison, we saw them come in as 2 students that probably didn't have all the tools necessary to cope with certain situations that they came to us with. But seeing them now and then working with them throughout and their guardians as well, we do see a change, and we see them prospering and graduating. And that's our ultimate goal, is to make sure that you guys graduate and make sure you guys make it further through life. And now that you have a whole list of new mentors here, a whole list of new friends here that are going to help you in this community, in this district, we only wish nothing but the best for you and commend you. We have another individual, Johnny Guzman, who can't make it today. He had other obligations, but he came through with flying colors as well. Each and every one of these students were asked to speak about things that maybe were uncomfortable, and had to discuss situations that maybe they didn't want to, but they did. They stepped up, they took it upon themselves to grow with people they didn't even know. I think that we became closer, as well as not just police officers and students, but they understood that there's a human behind the badge as well. And they really understood, hey, they dealt with the same situations that I dealt with. And it's really opened up. And so I'm very honored and pleased to have these 2 young ladies with us tonight. And I'm very thankful to have Officer Velasquez with us as well. Moving forward, we're going now to the face-to-face now, thanks to the lightning of COVID and everything else. We're starting our new promise program with 3 other individuals, the 26th of Saturday on June at Medio Creek. So I look forward to helping that. And I look forward to you 2 now reaching out and mentoring, because that's what the process is about. It's about growing a better community within our district, but all throughout the state of Texas is what we really want to do. And that's the reach that we're looking for here. But if we can start something here with our group at Southwest, that's what it's all about. So without further ado, I'd like to, and that's why he is my chief, and that's why I listen to him as well. I'd also like to recognize the parents and the guardians here as well. We have a sister here, we have an aunt here who has stepped up, and we've discussed several different matters about, hey, what do you need? I need you here at this time. And they've been on point with getting back with me and getting back with Officer Velasquez and making sure that everything was taken care of. A few bumps in the road, but that's why we're here. This isn't a punitive program. This is a program to help and mentor and guide. And so thank you, and I appreciate that, Chief. But without further ado, I do want to have Officer Velasquez come up to the podium. What we're going to do at this time, since they have completed their 6 weeks classroom instruction, and they have completed their 90-day promise period, which means they have not reoffended, which means they have performed well in school. Now, there are some exceptions, but we are working with them on that, and we will continue to work with you on that. But now we're going to take their criminal record and we're going to shred it like it never existed. So now you 2 ladies have a free, fresh start and you no longer will have a criminal record, and you get to prosper. All right, so at this time, let's have Madison come up, and if you want to, Ms. Brooks, you are like instrumental in being here with us, so please come up here with Madison. Dr. V, do you want to step up there with me? So what's happening here is the criminal charge that Officer Velasquez has is just a piece of paper. And with this first offenders program now, they participated and they have on record with the juvenile board that there is no criminal record at all with you, Madison, anymore, okay? So you no longer have any type of charges pending or anything. You're free and clear, all right? I appreciate and congratulate you for doing that and all your effort that you put forth and just opening up and being part of this program, because you came a long way. So thank you very much, and thank you very much, Ms. Brooks. I appreciate that, okay? Without further ado.
Would you like to say anything for each other? Are you sure? Well, I'll speak for her. Once I met Madison, I could tell she was kind of like peer pressure, where she, she in the committee. And within time, I used to reach out to her, checking on her. Within when she finished the 6 weeks, she ended up giving with me the whole point of the program. And I could see it in you that you wanted to change, and you guys see the effort. And just for her, like I said, she always emailed me, even if there's a back to make sure. And I can say I'm really proud of you. And even though we finished the program today, I'm still gonna get to high school, so I'm gonna be that person. I will see you walk. Okay.
With that, Madison, you will also receive a promise coin. This is our promise to you for however long you're even with this district, past this district, when you graduate, and when I'm older and grayer, we will still have that promise to you that we'll be there for you, okay? And we mean that from the bottom of our hearts. So thank you and congratulations. Ms. Gutierrez, would you mind? Bethany, would you mind coming up, please? And Officer Velasquez, I'll let you take it away from here. Ms. Gutierrez, would you like to say anything?
I want to go forward and not get back. Try to do your best. You see the changes more so now. Very, very proud of her. Yes, on the first day I met Bethany, she will talk to me. I had to talk to her and I'll ask her questions. She won't respond, so I'll answer them myself. Just to see if I get at least a reaction from her, maybe a giggle, because you shed a couple tears together. I felt like whatever she was going through, I've been through it too. So I kind of understood her position, and I can say that I've seen the growth in you, even though I had to look for you at lunch for you to talk to me. I could see it just with me going to her, and she just told me everything in life about related to her, and that's what we wanted to do, was for them to see us not just as a police officer, for them to express how they felt. And like I was told, I'm here to help her. Either it doesn't matter what time she's gonna email me, I'm there. And also exactly the same as Madison, I'm still gonna be there at the high school, and hopefully I get to see you walk the stage and stay with us. I just want to add that I'm not going to call my mom, that on your end, I've been there for you. 8 years old, we've been. It's constant. Even when you graduate, even when you have your own family, our home is your home. That's the big priority. That's only.
longevity.
All right, Bethany.
Remember that was still here no matter your program.
We have one more individual, like we said, Johnny couldn't make it. They had some prior engagements. I got to know Johnny very well. I know a couple of other individuals here. I got to know him really well. He's a great kid. His parents are great. He made a poor decision, but we had some bonding over jujitsu for some reason. You know, it's amazing what you learn from these kids. They teach you a lot as well. But he stepped up. He was very vocal in a lot of our sessions as well. He did really well. He kept his grades where they needed to be. He kept his attitude where he needed to be. And I am very proud of him personally too, because he was one of my mentees. But I'd love to shred his documents, and then I'll give him his personal. I'll give him his coin for him. Sure. Sorry, this kid and I we met and hit it off. Also want to give you guys a promise point too, everyone that's up here too. And I had a more, I think everyone else too. But this is the promise program coin. This is the coin that they received at the end of their promise. And this is our promise to them that we will be there no matter what. And that is the heart and soul of our department. That's what Chief implores us to do with the PI methodology. And we hope and pray that we continue this on for however long we can. And with these new incoming students that we have, we can't wait to bring them on and get them going. We have middle school students coming in now, some that are going to be incoming freshmen. So it's 10 to 16 years old, and we look really forward to having them up here and shredding their documents too. And that's what it's all about, keeping them out of that prison pipeline.
We have,
Lord, thank you so much.
we have had many presentations up here, and this is one of the most enjoyable. You guys have done a great job. You have our support. You guys, everyone in this room at one time or another has needed a second chance, beginning with me. You can't change the past. You can learn from it and change your future. And I see that in both of you, and I'm sure we see it in the young man that's not here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, in closing, we just want to thank Dr. Verstup, his leadership and his vision for the district and the department and our board. We couldn't do it without support of our school board. We appreciate your support in keeping our kids safe and supporting all our prevention programs because in the end, there is no greater calling than to protect the future generation. And that's what we're doing here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I want to thank Chief for his leadership and all of our PD. They're proactive, they care, they love the children that attend this school, give their time to it. I had the honor to go with them to meet with the DA's office to make this a bona fide, viable program where we have permission as an end result. I thought I was going to present. I quickly learned they took me to buy lunch. But to sit there and listen to these ladies and gentlemen describe the passion for our youth was something to sit and behold. And so I want to thank you constantly for your leadership. And our students, you guys are gold, and you're just phenomenal. You're going to have a really great future. And I really appreciate you and your families, especially for being part of this. So thank you. Congratulations. Again. Great job. Welcome to stay.
This is a good time.
Thank you once again, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
You can also.
Okay. Public comments? No? None? I was ready for public comment. Okay, consent agenda, board members, you've had that before you. There's 4 items. Any questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Tonight, we're gonna ask the board to do a change order to Southwest High School for some millwork. The last one we did, the renovations for Snowy. We came to you and had a bigger ask, and this one's around 69,000 from fund balance to finish off the millwork for that project.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm looking for a motion.
I second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Items of information.
Construction update, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So tonight we have a treat for you. For the first time in probably a year and a half that we have our architects and some of our contractors here with you to kind of go through some of our projects. So we'll turn it over to Billy. We'll come up and introduce the first group. Give you all an update on what's going on across the district and construction.
Evening, folks.
Good evening.
Hello. Okay, our first project we're going to present to y'all is the renovation at Southwest High School, Phase 3. Rafael Bedoya is here representing Lpa Architects, design team on the project. And representing the contractor, general contractor is Lawrence Garcia with Kencon General Contractors. Open.
Here we go, we're ready. Sorry about that.
Too long, you trained Billy. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome back.
Hello.
Glad to see you all in person again. In a few months since we've been here, so. Again, we're presenting tonight, Phase 3 of Southwest High School. This is board report number 13. The last pay application that we processed in May 31st was pay number 12, and we're sitting at about 57% completion. What we completed here recently is the last portion of the spring 21 work, which was mostly classroom renovation work. Kencon's done a very good job of completing that work. We did the punch list walk last week, and they're doing now punch list items. So since then, now they're working through the demolition part of the beginning of the summer work. As we presented before in some subcommittees, is basically we're about at the halfway point. And through the summer, we'll complete the other half. It's a lot of work throughout the whole campus, but not a lot of flashy work, right? Because we're doing the arts classrooms, we're doing the choir classrooms, we're doing roof renovation work, we're doing a lot of remediation work and some of the work that some of the damage that we had during the water, during the storm for winter. And Kencon's brought in an additional superintendent to complete that work. That way we have the original team working on the original scope, and then this additional superintendent to complete the rest of the work. They've already done a lot of demolition. They've done a lot of the initial part of reinstalling a lot of the gypsum board that was removed because it was damaged. They're doing some abatement work in the second floor in the home ec area. So they're just doing a little bit all over the campus. But I think they're on good track. If we can scroll down to
You see some of the photographs there that we took from the art classrooms. This was pre-demolition. I was there yesterday, and this, basically, it's been gutted out. The ceilings are out, furniture's out, the floor's even out. So they have a good start. On the second picture there, that's the work that they were doing in the competition gym. They redid new units on the roof, and redid the ductwork inside. So they're almost complete with that. They'll be removing that scaffold. Those two pictures there show the work in the classrooms. They have been finished, punched. You see some of the furniture now, and it's actually been turned over. So I believe Mr. Black did have some use of it before the end of the semester. So that's the composite first floor plan. It shows in yellow what we just completed. So by the next report, we'll show basically that is closed. What you see in red is the activities that they're going to be doing now. To the right are the choir rooms, which is just renovation of 2 classrooms. And at the bottom, you see that little red square. That's going to be some renovation work that we're doing in the admin area. And here on the second floor, those center part red is the art classrooms that they've done the demo, and we're going to start there. On the left, you'll see those 2 red squares, those work in the competition gym that they've already started, and they're almost nearing completion. So it's a lot of work during the summer. I think Kankon's putting a good effort to complete it. I think we're on track to do it, but we're going to try. It's going to be a good effort.
Any questions? Design team, architects, contractors? All right, thank you.
Estimated completion?
Right now, the completion date by contract is September. And right now, we're still on track to meet that. We talked with Kencon, and based on the superintendent they brought in and the subs that they're using, I think we can make the date. There's contingency plans with Mr. Black of getting him the classrooms or science labs that he needs in order to function. But I think we're going to be ahead of the game on that. So.
We have 2,000 students. Looks like they're moving back.
It's there. You know, it's going to be a full house when they come back in August, so we're pushing.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The next project up for presentation is our Scoby Middle School renovation project. Jorge Flores with Garza Baumberger, the design team, and Aaron DiFilippo with Bart McCock, our general contractor on the project.
Good evening. It's pleased to meet you again. This is wonderful. No masks. So yeah, we have a very good news on this project. It's going really smooth. We have no problems. You can see Aaron will tell you exactly what is the status of the project. There are some pictures here that are not included because they just recently started that in the cafeteria, the kitchen, the fine arts area. So, but they are on schedule. They are trying to finish this by.
Well, we're trying to finish all the interior work, especially the kitchen and the cafeteria and the fine arts area by the time teachers come back in August. So around August 17th, I think is the date. We might have some exterior work, a little bit of exterior work to finish up, loose ends to tie up after that. But our contractual date is in September, but we know that students have to have somewhere to go, somewhere to eat, somewhere to learn. So we're on track to turn over interior, all the interior work by the time teachers return in August.
Tommy Cook has been scheduled this work really good because you may see the serving line in the cafeteria, and they started working on that, but they actually did a lot of work previous the actual working in the site by submitting all the equipment that is going to be in place. We have to review, approve, and they have to order that. These are long lead items. And they did this a long time ago. And now it's time for them to start receiving this equipment and install there. They are doing some demolition in the area. So it's exhaustive, the work that they have done to meet these dates.
Yeah, like Jorge said, it's been a great project. I want to thank y'all for the opportunity for Bart Lecoq and for us to join the district here and work on this project. Like I said, it's gone very smoothly. I think Billy and Raphael have been instrumental in that, and Jorge as well. If you kind of read through the progress report, you're going to see a lot of phases. Phase 3, phase 6. The project's been real cut up. We've been taking little portions of the school at a time, knocking those areas out, turning back over to the campus. And so it's been a lot of coordination with deliveries and with materials and things of that nature. So I think it's gone very smoothly. So hopefully it has from your guys' perspective as well. Currently, we're working major work areas are the kitchen and the cafeteria. We've got that demoed out. We're working on the fine arts area. We've got that demoed out. We're starting to build back. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around, but back on the first page, we were finishing up the library. I'll kind of go.
Yeah.
In order, sorry. Finishing up the library right now, last final touch-ups in there. We've got the fire marshal gave us the pass. So just doing final clean, things of that nature in that area, getting ready to turn that area over to the school so they can start moving books and furniture and things back in there. Those are the first 4 pictures, the library, the associated offices and study rooms around there. Also, we are working in the gymnasium, which is the top left picture there. We've got both gyms. We're working on the last few items in there. We started installing basketball equipment, all the goals. Actually today, we're going to start bleachers on Friday. So really that's coming together right here nicely for the start of school. The fine arts area, the next 3 photos are in the fine arts area. That's the art room. We've got it all demoed out. That's the band and the mariachi area. We've actually started building back now. Just at the end of last week, we started installation of light fixtures, ceiling grids, and things of that nature. So we anticipate kind of finishing that up really the first couple weeks of July. So give the campus enough time to move all their furniture and instruments and things of that nature back in there. And really the big crunch right now, like I said, is the kitchen and the cafeteria. We're currently demoing in there. I don't have any photos, but everything's pretty much demoed out. Like Jorge said, we've got all the equipment ordered, the serving line, the rest of the kitchen equipment should be coming here about mid-July, and slide right in there and turn it over. So
Budget is perfect. So you don't have to approve anything extra.
yes,
On time and on budgets. That's good news.
Thank you.
On budget.
Yeah. Any more questions? All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
thanks everybody.
Gracias.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Next up is our re-roof and HVAC work at the 11 elementaries and McAuliffe. And presenting this project is Carlos Constantino with Lpa Architects.
Hello, Carlos. We're ready for you, sir.
This will be quick. Dr. Verstoff, how are you, sir? Board President, board members, I appreciate y'all's time. Again, I'm Carlos Constantino with LPA. This will be real quick. What we're doing this summer, that's actually the end of the scope of work. We did most of it last summer, is we have a McAuliffe. Last week, we're replacing all the air handler units. It's about 6 mezzanines. We removed all the old air handlers, and we installed all of the 22 new air handlers in the mezzanines. We did that all last week. This week now we are assembling, and we're putting together all of the ductwork and all the water lines, reattaching all the water lines to all of the air handling units in these mezzanines. And so we're hoping that we're complete here in the next month and a half, but things are going well so far at the mechanical mezzanines at McAuliffe. Over at Crewald and Elm Creek, as y'all are aware, we have sort of a new scope. We have a new fire alarm and PA at those two schools. And so over at Crewald, we have started the miscellaneous removal, about complete with all of the old wiring, and also removed all the old speakers. We're putting in new speakers, new fire alarm, voice activated fire alarm. They have also started to run all of the new wiring to the new devices, install the J boxes for all the new fire alarm devices. And so they're continuing to do that now. They're close, maybe at Crewald, they're probably about 75% complete for all the wiring. They're waiting on all of the devices to come in, fire alarm devices, all of the speakers, et cetera, for that campus. And then this week, they're starting on Elm Creek. They're sort of overlapping a little bit. And so this week, they'll begin the same removal of the old wiring, the old speakers. And then by that time, hopefully another week or so, all of the other equipment and devices will show up, and they'll start all of the installation for the fire alarm and the PA. We have new annunciator panels. We also have new panels for the PA and the fire alarm as well at the main entry of the admin area. Other than that, again, we're shooting for, I believe it's August the 6th for our time frame 1 week prior to the new teachers showing up. Other than that, everything else is complete. We've done all the gymnasium AC, the new air handler replacements at Crewald and also Creek and Indian Creek, and also at the roofs on the part of the roof at the McAuliffe. So this is our last push. We're excited to finish up, and that's where we're at. So any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
All righty, next up is the one everybody's really interested in, that's the natatorium. Here to present there, it's James Nitschke with George General Contractors and Sean Bacon with Lpa Architects.
Come on up. Y'all are ready.
Come on down.
Just everybody's doing good to see
I don't know if you want to.
Actually. Well, here we are, the aquatics facility for Southwest ISD. You guys have a wonderful facility, and here we go. A rendering of where we're headed to, and time-wise, that's where we're tracking. We're gonna hit this milestone. It's supposed to be finished in April of next year. Cost-wise, I'm very happy to report we are on budget. Still have most of the contingency, used a little bit, contractor's contingency, but the original contract sum 24,725, it remains the same because we're still working within the contractor's contingency. We're roughly 21%. I'd say we're probably about 22, 23% now because there's been a lot of movement in the last couple of days, and actually the last couple of weeks because of the lack of rain. So everything's moving smoothly, basically coming up out of the ground. Where we are right now, I don't know if you want to present this portion of it, where we're headed and where we're coming from. If not,
I mean, right now it's all about concrete and steel. I'm not going to read bullet point for bullet point, but majority of everything that we're working on right now is concrete and steel. You know, once we reach the milestone of getting steel, getting all the concrete foundation ready, then we start erecting steel, starting with these big girders.
Start to take some shape,
and it'll start to take some shape, and it'll start to look really cool. So
yeah, if you haven't driven by, you'll start to see that the concrete columns, the tall columns, are in place, and I think we're getting close to pouring the shorter ones for the canted roof portion. But a lot of the site utilities are pretty much complete, and most of our grading and drainage is in place. So everything's moving according to plan, even with all the rain. Amazingly enough. They just had that perfect schedule where when it would rain, they weren't pouring. So here's to give you some imagery. You can see the images to the left is really looking from the kind of the east end of the facility, looking back towards the highway of 410. And what you see to the left on that top image is actually the deep pool, the long lap pool. And then the images, as you see, we already have water. Just the chemical system is not up to speed. But no, really, everything is going quite smoothly.
We're headed to, here's some utilities, and they're about to wrap most of that up. What you see the far left image is actually in the surge tank. So some more utilities. Not really a lot of glamour images to show you, but basically most of the concrete work coming up is done. We're just looking to wrap up the columns, and they have a lot of the steel on site, and they will start to prep and prime those and lift them up in place. So that's where we are. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Is there any major equipment that's a little delayed? Any major equipment that may have some delays?
Actually, I don't think we've seen
We
any
haven't,
delays at this point.
we haven't really heard of any major delays. Nothing that's gonna impact our schedule.
As long as we keep the concrete pouring and the steel coming in, and those guys have fair weather to prep and prime it, lifting up and in place is the next goal. And you'll start to see a lot of movement at that point. It's really going to start to develop.
Have you
over the
run
next
into
several
any
weeks.
design flaws or anything like that with the architectural work?
Never a design flaw.
That's what I was asking.
No, very good question. No, we do find things, small things, but right now, nothing major. We're very happy with, we actually requested, I don't know if you remember, but I asked Raphael for a couple of extra weeks in documentation, and it paid dividends. It helped with bidding. When the guys put it out on the street, the numbers came in, and actually there was significant buyout savings that created the contingency. So I not to pat ourselves on the back, but we had a really good team. And the partnership in the CMR process was invaluable. So it's actually moving quite smoothly. Yeah. Yes, sir. All right.
Thank you.
All righty, next up is our middle school track project. 4 middle schools. To present for this is Paul Mathis with CEC, who's our designer / engineer on this project.
Hi, Paul Mathis with CEC, to give you an update on the tracks. Looking at McAuliffe, Scoby, McNair, and Resnick. And we'll go to the first one here, talking about McAuliffe. So the permit status, we got our permits from the city of San Antonio. They were granted at the end of May. For construction purposes, they're looking at starting probably about the beginning of July to do the SW3P, and then start doing some of the earthwork about a week or two after that, so about mid-July, with a completion on that track project in December this year. Then moving on to McNair, this is a little bit outdated already because City of San Antonio Stormwater did approve the stormwater report, and all the fees have been paid, and they sent over the documentation. We've already responded to our first round of comments from the county. And so we're looking at obtaining the permits for both the floodplain and the building permit at the end of this week. On the construction side, Joris is looking at starting the SW3P, which is all your pollution prevention plan around the track at the end of this week, and then next week starting excavation. And they're also working on some utilities, doing some locates out there. Then a quick update about Scoby. We just received a bunch of comments from the city of San Antonio. I got those responded to, and those were submitted this afternoon. And so we should be looking for a quick turnaround from the county on the permits for that. City of San Antonio has already signed off on everything, and they've actually sent over all the documentation for the building permit application and the FILO form. So that's been sent to Bexar County, so they have that in their records. Construction, again, looking at the end of June for installing the SW3P, they'll be doing a lot of the earthwork on the north side of the site. There's about 20 feet of fill that has to be done, and redirecting a channel on that side. And we're also working on doing the drainage and the sewer easements because we are relocating the sewer with that project. And so Saul's sewer, we did receive the first review, got a few comments, have those addressed, and we'll be resubmitting those actually tomorrow morning, so. And again, this track will be a December 2021 completion. And so we'll be coming in after Bartlett Cox moves out with their laydown area so we can do the other portion of the track. Yeah, update on Resnick. The permitting we got from the city of San Antonio at the beginning of this month. The SW3P was put out at the end of last week. And so excavation should be ongoing this week to start working on that track. And again, this one, since it's going to be completed over the summer for the asphalt and the field, we're looking at also coming back later to do the track surfacing, because we need a window there where the asphalt has to cure for 28 days before you can put the track surface down. And then there's a couple weeks in there for the track surface and the striping. And so trying to look at probably doing all 4 tracks around the same time.
Oh, that's great.
We'll be working with the coaches and making sure that we can still have, practice and block around their schedules as much as we can.
Questions? Was there any, what were the comments that were received by the SAWS or the city?
Most of the comments from the city were related to the new interlocal agreement, looking at the downstream drainage impact, the full detailed analysis. Some of the other comments that we got from SAWS were just strictly some labels and, what we're tying into. There was, I guess, some confusion as, they thought we were putting more equivalent dwelling units or, additional discharge into the sewer, which we're just basically doing a relocation. So they're fairly minor comments.
So none of those comments will hinder us from proceeding with the construction?
No, not on Resnick or Scoby. And also with the other 2 schools, there's nothing that changes the scope of work than what we had originally in the plans.
For your Southwest grad, the design is perfect, I'm sure.
Yes, yeah. Lloyd was the principal at the high school when I graduated in 2000. I don't want to go to his office.
All right. All right, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
And our final project for presentation is the Transportation Center. It bids on the 30th, but has not been put out the bid yet. Here to kind of give you all an update on what the project's all about. So Suresh and Heath with RBK Architects.
So good evening, everyone. We're glad to be here. Heath Winter, I'm the principal in charge. I want to let Suresh give you a quick rundown on the project.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So last time we did speak a little and introduce a project. We're going to do a renovation of the transportation facility. The main building is going to get new HVAC lighting and some architectural upgrades. The fueling station is going to get some facelift painting, make it look a little fresh. And the bus wash, we're going to put a new bus wash. So this is the main admin and shop area. We're improving. There's an accessibility issue at the main entry. We're going to address that. And we're going to replace the HVAC, as I said, and the lighting. Going to have a new operable partition, improved acoustics between the break room and the training room. So we added some alternates because of how the cost environment for construction right now is. So as part of the alternate, the open bay here will be enclosed, and a new sectional door would provide another opportunity to maintain buses here, and also releases the tire repair for additional service as a service bay. And The second alternate is to replace the ceiling grid, and the base bid is you're just replacing the tiles. The exterior steel painting of the building is also another alternate, and then there's an IDF room and it has a rack right in the middle of it. Trying to see if we could do a wall mounted rack that would release some space and make that room more spacious. This is the bus wash, so we're going to get a new rollover or gantry type bus wash. All of the existing systems will be demolished and removed and prepped for the new bus wash. That's fueling station, and it's going to get new lighting. So this is the exterior of the building, and this is the new scheme, and it's going to have the green color, and that was reviewed and approved by the admin and staff. So we're going to go with that. These are the general finishes. This is for the door frames, wall, casework, and we're going to have quartz countertops that'll last long and will be maintenance free. Overall, the construction budget, the probable opinion cost at the end of the construction documents. So, and then we have the alternates cost, opinion probable cost. Now, the schedule of this, we issued the documents for bidding on June 2nd. And tomorrow we're going to have the free bid conference and the project bids on June 30th. That's the current status of the project.
And for the budget, as we finish up some of the other projects, the idea is to have some alternates. And if we have any extra funds, we can move towards these things. There's some requests like the open bay. Right now we have room to put 6 buses in there. We really can't expand the amount of mechanics we get unless we have more base space. And so we have an area that's not really being used and utilized. And so it's a request to kind of open that up and figure out how we can use that. So if we have to expand as we grow, we get more buses, we need more mechanics. It's really hard for them to have additional mechanics if they don't have a place to actually, a workstation.
Right.
And so the idea is to see where it falls on bid day, bring you some ideas of where we'd have funds available if we wanted those the alternates in, or we might get lucky. We don't know yet, but the market's different than what it was previously, and so we'll have to see.
One other thing I want to point out is the facing of the renovation. We're looking at it deeper in the design. We actually have approached McAuliffe because they have about 4 portables on the side of the transportation department that are unoccupied. So in order to help the construction, we've talked with Mr. Tamayo, Mr. De La Cruz, maybe moving the front offices temporarily to a transportation portable where they're still really close in proximity, leaving the dispatch and supervisors on site at all times. But that would alleviate a lot of the phasing on the construction. McAuliffe's admin has been pretty gracious and are willing to work with transportation department to make that happen. So that's going to be a proposal that we bring up to y'all once we receive it. So it's just going to help the timeline quite a bit. But other than that, that's pretty much all I have.
Question?
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, Billy, that's it. Pretty much the extent of our major construction projects.
All right.
We still have a lot.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on.
Any minor construction?
We do, sir. I think the
We have gas.
cast we have, I think we were going to kind of bring something back at
Right.
at the next, kind of show you everything else that we're doing. If we have a brown bag or the next board meeting,
Yeah.
we'll probably do more of an update for that stuff. We'll kind of see
Okay.
where we're at, because we could get into all of them. We still have a few more, but no.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, guys.
Okay, monthly tax report.
Yes,
See,
sir.
you're at the same spot you were.
Yeah, so we're exactly at 93%. So our goal is to be at about 99.5 when we get to August and September. So we're tracking really good. We'll see how it turns out, but it's good to be at the same we were last year, basically, since we're going through COVID.
Financial report, investment report, give some requests you've all had before you. Anyone have any questions? Any special comments there, Brandon?
No, sir.
Okay. Enrollment report, page 50, you've also seen that. Purchases over 50,000. Calendar events on page 54, I believe. Anyone have any questions? Anyone have any comments? Any of those? Okay. District social and emotional learning update.
Yes, sir. We know the importance of this light interruption. And, you guys saw some of the presentation on using some of our ESSER funding towards social emotional and what we're going to do with our students and our families. And so I know Galila has been nice in contact, and I've been able to work and have a conversation with her. There you go.
Over here.
You've been here for a year.
Yeah.
We're all still figuring it out, too.
Got on color. So tonight we brought aspects of our social planning, and tonight I think you're going to have a picture, an optic of our complete tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and how we're going to address SEL for all students and provide opportunity. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Garcia. And I see that we're going to use Dr. Hogan to start the presentation, but we might have to ask.
Thank you, Dr. Merson. So throughout this few months, almost a year and a half of COVID, we have still had our Southwest Cares team. So we do appreciate the Southwest Cares team who has been addressing just different traumatic events that as a community, we have had to manage, take care of, and provide some support for our families. So in the process, we're looking at a slice of that work, which is the SEL. So the social emotional learning is what's going to happen inside the classrooms, inside the campuses, and also wrapping around with support. So after looking at this work, we are identifying some really good critical structures to put in place for academics to close the learning loss. So we also now want to create some structures, look at resources, and with that entails also realigning our human resource. So by looking at the 3 different divisions, we found that we had, just personnel, and we had some great experts of the work. So tonight you're going to hear what we're calling it the tiered approach. Just the way we have academics response to intervention, we are also responding to our social emotional learning. And so tonight we have our 2 presenters, which is Dr. Hogan and Mr. Jesse Garcia.
Good evening, board president, board members, Dr. Versta. So I want to just start out first with the this picture, because I think this really kind of talks a lot about why we're talking about SEL. So on the left side, you see what was pre-pandemic looking like, our social pieces, and then what was going on during the pandemic itself. Those are 2 very vast different pictures when you think about the social and emotional aspect for students, especially when we're talking about young students as they're learning through those social pieces. You're not able to gain those pieces of social engagement. So what is it going to look like after, right? And so we're really talking about how do we address those social and emotional learning milestones, and what do we need to really look at to make that work? There's still lots of questions that I think we have to answer, but as we're building the framework, one of the things that Jesse and I did with our counterparts is look at who do we have that really addresses those concerns. So we kind of broke them down into tiers. That tier 1 is for everyone. So those are all of our students. The tier 1 are going to be those individuals that are going to be rolling out our big piece of the social emotional learning. So we have our campus counselors, we have PE coaches, we have library services, fine arts. They're going to be doing that big piece of just accessing the big elements of social and emotional learning, the big pieces. But when we get into tier 2 and tier 3, that's really going to be our students that are struggling with specific pieces. So with our tier 2 group, you can look at your social workers. We can be looking specifically at speech pathologists, because our speech teachers actually do a lot of social emotional aspects of that. Those could be very specific special ed teachers that are working with self-contained students. Our LSSPs, we're even looking at music therapists to bring them in to do some of those pieces of work. And then with our tier 3, those are going to be those individuals that are working on very specific skills. Again, you see a lot of crossover between the different tiers, But the idea that I want you to take away from this particular piece is that we have a lot of professionals that have a lot of expertise within these different groups of social emotional learning. It's about how we're going to combine those pieces. So when you think about targeted interventions versus our selected interventions and universal, the big piece that I want everybody to remember is every child is going to start at tier 1. Everybody has access to those tier 1 pieces. It's what we're going to be doing to address more specific things as we get into the selected or the targeted. So when we talk about selected students, those may be a group of 3 to 10 students, and they're working on very specific skills, but they may just be issues that they just need some practice with. So within small groups, they're able to work through those skills. Social skills training pieces are a big part of that, being able to work together to mirror some of those skills, a lot of school to home communication. But when we get into the targeted group, this is their top tier group, the top tier 3 group, that's when we're talking about very targeted behaviors that we need to do very specific things with. We have to look at the purpose of those behaviors, and we're looking to extinguish or we're looking to replace the behavior. So within that group, it may just be either one student that's one-on-one, or it could be a very small group if we're looking at some individuals that share some of the same things. But the big piece to SEL for us is that we're going to be working across those bridges. All of those individuals that have really key expertise are going to be working together to provide those. We're going to align our goals across the different domains, and we're going to make sure that we're collaborating on the specific students that are having difficulty so that we can get them back into that tier 1. So when you think about the tier 1, right now what we're looking at are specific curriculums that are going to address elementary, middle school, and high school. A lot of those things are still working through some of the curriculum pieces, but the idea here is that at elementary, all of the kids will be accessing the same SEL. Same with middle school and same with high school. How that's accessed depends on whether they're middle school, high school, or elementary, but the idea is that those pieces are going to be integrated throughout the entire day. So when we're looking at creating kind of a resource bank, these are some of the curriculum pieces and interventions that we're talking about for tier 1. Again, the key here is to make sure that when we're talking about those SEL pieces, that we're looking at specific domains being addressed for all students. These are some of, like I said, some of the curriculums that they are looking at. These are some of the ideas that you can see within that resource bank. The great thing about some of the lesson plans that we have been talking about using is it gives them very key information from the teacher perspective. The age group that you may be looking at, how many students you would be focusing on. There's even targeted scripts that the teachers can utilize to work with the students. So the idea here is, so as they're introducing those into the classroom, that we're giving really clear structures on how to present that information. Again, these are some other pieces that will be in the resource bank, so that our teachers have the ability to be very flexible. Every classroom is going to be very different in terms of what those students are bringing into the environment as they're coming back. So teachers do need to have some flexibility in terms of what lessons need to be addressed within their time frame. Tier 2, though, is going to be a little bit more select in terms of what they're addressing. Again, with these particular students, they're going to come in with some specific concerns. And the idea would be that we would be addressing those particular social concerns in a small group setting outside of the general ed classroom, work through those particular pieces with your social workers, with key personnel, and then be able to move them back into the general ed classroom to generalize those skills. I think oftentimes what we're finding is a lot of students just need some additional support. There's been a lot of students, as we're kind of coming into summer school, we're really getting a clear picture of some of what we're seeing. A lot of kids have had some clear isolation. So a lot of it's just practicing the social skills. And so in a small group, you can do that if you've got the right people in place, putting those things in order. So what we would do with a tier 2 student is we would have a referral process, looking at what are the key elements that are of concern. Panorama will be our big picture in terms of how we're looking at what are the baseline concerns. And then we would start narrowing down into what are the key pieces we need to address within this small group. So we have some assessment pieces that we would also be considering to look at so that we can kind of narrow down to what's the social emotional domain we want to focus on for that particular group. But the key feature here is the idea would be that we are going to teach a specific skill and help them generalize that back into their environments. Practice, practice, practice is what's really going to be important for them. Again, the resource bank is going to be huge. We have a lot of professionals that have a lot of information to be able to share amongst the groups. So the idea here is that as time goes on, we're going to be dumping more and more pieces into that resource bank so that individuals can share that information across particular groups. I think as the groups kind of form themselves, we're going to see that a lot of the same pieces are going to be important to those groups as they're kind of working through the social pieces. This is a particular lesson, just an example, again, making sure that we're going over, what the group is looking for, what the objective is. What I love about these lessons is they even have sensitivity notes in there. What should you consider if a student doesn't have a parent left in their house? What we have found so far coming into summer school is these kids are coming with stories of either losing a grandparent, knowing somebody that has been sick with COVID, and having to be very sensitive to those conversations. This is going to be a key piece to those classrooms. Again, some additional resources that are really important, giving conversation starters for managing emotions. Another one that we use a lot is problem-solving maps. This, again, in those small groups, it gives them the opportunity to work through those problems, think about what the consequences may be, and help that student make decisions. But within that small group, it will help them to have kind of a peace of mind to know that there's a group to support that. With tier 3, the big piece here, again, is looking at very targeted behaviors. So it's going to be very goal-based. They're looking at a specific behavior. They're looking to either replace that behavior or extinguish the behavior, depending on what's going to be best for that particular instance. Again, we're talking about one student, possibly up to 2 to 3 students, but again, it's very targeted in their intervention. Again, the referral process is going to be huge to this because we want to make sure that as we're looking at that reintegration process for them, we're supporting everybody across the board. Do the parents need intervention? Are there caregivers that are working with them that need particular supports? Because what we do in school is going to help drive what they're doing. We need to teach those skills to the caregivers that are in the homes as well. So we'll be working through those reintegration plans, making sure that we have some very targeted goals in those action plans to support that. And then making sure as we're doing those reintegration pieces that everybody has a purpose in our team. It's not going to be put on one individual. It's a team that's going to be supporting those individuals as they're reintegrating. That's going to be very key to those tier 3 kids. So again, critical features, it's about replacing specific behaviors. We're really looking at those specific behaviors that are concerned for a particular student and how we address those as we move forward. Again, a resource bank is going to be huge for tier 3. Those resources are very specific in terms of being able to give them a particular model. This is what it looks like. This is how you can follow that and help them script them through that process. Again, these are some resource bank samples just so you can see we're even scripting language, helping them work through conversation skills, giving them opportunities to give them replacement behaviors. This is an opportunity for you to learn this replacement behavior to replace this particular thing that they're exhibiting, but it gives them some choice in that process itself. So again, the resource bank is going to be huge for that process. So Jesse and I have talked a lot about next steps. And so I think what's really great about this process is this is probably the first time we have worked across lots of different divisions to address a really big piece. And I have to say, it's been an amazing process because it's really allowed us to see we have a lot of people in our district that have huge, amazing skills that are spread out throughout. So now I think the real big piece for Jesse and I is to find a way to kind of realign that. So I'll let Jesse kind of talk
and
to
I think
that.
that's what we want. We want some of this to live kind of in one place together. And so we know our social workers, if you looked on the tiered approach that we have on tier 2 and tier 3, social workers are going to be a big part of that. So Marie Phelps, who's our director of social workers, is going to be a big part of this in helping get that group kind of organized. They've already started looking at what some of those tiered interventions would look like. There's a lot of different banks. There's a lot of different options. There really is kind of a lot of the details we still kind of need to work out. We have the general structure built of what we want it to look like and how we want it to live. I think eventually we would love for this to be in one building where we would have our food pantry, we would have our clothing closet, and then we have this support available to students or community members who could come in and get some social emotional support as well too. Of course, we're not there yet right now. We're kind of building this from the bottom up, but this is a really important step for us to get the right people working with the right folks. And like Aubrey said right now, we did have a lot of folks from different departments talking. We did possibly discuss a couple of folks to move in this department to be able to help Ms. Phelps drive that work. And so we're really kind of looking to create something here that's going to be long-term, that's going to be sustained, and it's going to be prescriptive to what our kids need over time. So it's not just that general tier 1 where we're like, This is the support that all of our kids get every day at school. But some very specific things for tier 2. I know everybody's familiar with the BOSS program over at Meadow Creek Elementary and the great things that Mr. Cornejo has done over there. Well, that is a great tier 2 approach to what you can do with some of the students when you get a very specific program that can have a great impact really fast. Tier 3, of course, would be a lot more specific than that because you're looking at maybe just one student or a pair of students that you're working with. So we're really trying to build the structure, plug the right folks in who can do the work, and then work out the details over time so that we, and of course, keep coming back to it and making it better over time. Nothing is going to be set in stone. We'll continue to reevaluate it to make sure that we're putting the right pieces out there and we're doing the right things for our kids. But we just want you all to know that there's a plan for it, there's a home for it, and there's definitely a vision for what we'd like to do in the future.
Thank you. And again, the last information that we brought to the board was also the program for Meadow Creek. So it was a big inspiration in us looking at the tier 2 and tier 3, that we already do have some best practices that are occurring across the campuses. So we wanted to just come back and realign the key experts and then just making sure that we're having all this one great initiative under one big umbrella for the tier 2 and tier 3. So with that said, is the tier 1, the whole child will be driven through curriculum and instruction. And then the tier 2 and tier 3 is where we get more experts. So that support services through outreach, which is a division that Jesse helps with. And so we're really looking forward to this work. So we're excited.
So does that mean that BOSS program, you're gonna use that as an example for across all the schools for tier 2?
So in the BOSS program, they've identified some resources that we are coming back and meeting with those vendors to make sure that everything is aligned. And so what we're creating is just like now like a big, big shell of what the campuses can do. But we've already been hearing from principals like, well, I already have this in place. So now we want to make sure that the roles are aligned, that the counselors, the social workers, we're providing some role clarity. And then also here in central office of like, who's going to support the social workers? And we've got a lot of good resources already within the district. So we're just making sure that we're identifying. So even the best practices like the BOSS program and Meadow Creek, they've already had all this in place. So now we're just going to create some support structures, centralized, where we can continue seeing the duplication of best practices across the district.
Are we gonna have data? I would be very interested in seeing and knowing the numbers when we start the school year versus maybe we can look at them in December and see how, or at the end of that first term. So we can, I'd really be interested to know the depth of the issues that our children are coming in with and how effective we were at resolving them.
Yeah, we can definitely fund for that.
Yes, thank you.
I think it'd be very important to determine what metrics we want to measure and bring back and monitor. I'm also want to commend the board. I sit in meetings every week with other leaders from San Antonio, other districts, and it's not normal to have the number of social workers that Southwest already had pre-pandemic, and that has us in a different position, I think, to move forward, to set guardrails, flexibility, give our campuses some autonomy to choose, but with expectations that we're going to provide oversight and monitor to make sure all of our students have some contact points every day and what that looks like. And so I think we're in a really unique starting place compared to others, but now it's our job to take advantage of that and move further to provide our students. But I'll tell you, I don't think other districts our size have a 20 social workers district-wide already with the outreach services and what's happening definitely with our students who definitely have some identified need. So it's about coalescing it all together. So we do have a really bona fide program, but give our campuses some opportunity to make decisions.
Well, I think too that with the social workers, of course, they've always been an important piece of every campus, but really, truly, the spotlight is on them now, and their expertise is, I think, critical and never been so important. And like you said, we're just grateful that we have the resource already, and we're not scrambling trying to fill those gaps at this point. So that's wonderful.
This is going to be the first time that we're in this situation. It's very unique, and all these kids are going to be coming back after this 16-month kind of different
Yes.
world that they've lived
Yes.
in. You know, a lot of them, we kind of hear the stories. I saw my own kids at home struggle
Mhm.
during this time. And so,
Yes.
you know, you can say these are two educated parents, and there's a lot of these kids who have just one parent,
Mhm.
no parent. They live with grandma. They've seen, they lost grandma. We have a number of different
Yeah,
situations. and
job losses,
we're making
resource loss,
assumptions, you know, about
homelessness.
some of the things they're gonna come in with, but there's gonna be the gamut, I think,
Mhm.
of the things that they come in, that they're gonna be struggling with as they come back, and this is their safe space.
Yeah.
So we need to support them.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
The one thing you know, what I would like to address is that interventions, the interventions of a person that may have, what is it called, like, a held for, I guess, knowing that therapy is good. I would like to see something come out like, hey, therapy is good. Not therapy, like, because when you have parents that like, oh, my kid's fine, my kid's fine. I don't want them to be like, no, that therapy is good for that one kid. Or when you address something like they need therapy, I don't want them to be, oh, no, my son's fine. I know my son. I want them to be able to say that, oh, we're going to help your kid to the best of our abilities. And I think something to where maybe I guess a PR saying that therapy is going to be good for our kids at this time and day because of COVID. After
Educating our parents.
That would be that in-schools counselor making them understand because they've established that to make sure that.
We could also do a educating our parents type of campaign.
Yes.
To prepare them for the increased outreach that we're gonna be doing so that they're not just aware, but that they can kind of be okay with that.
Yeah, and get the message out that it's okay
We
to
have
ask.
learned over time that a communication plan needs to be associated with everything.
Mhm. Yes.
And it is going to be about normalizing mental health.
Yes.
That's going to be a huge part of it. And some of that is going to be about how we present it. That there are certainly trigger words that we have learned over the years with parents. So we will have to pre-package some of this in a way that's very clear that it is about support, but it's also about normalizing the conversation, being okay to talk about the mental health concerns that we're seeing. So that will be a big push. And I have faith that with this group, it's amazing how many of them are they're ready to go. I mean, they knew it was coming and they have been working on these pieces. So I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, so we're excited because with the resources that we have customized our social emotional learning and with just the experts that we have here within our house. So it's a beautiful, beautiful. one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Jessica, Doctor. Okay, RSSP, is that also you?
Yes, we have the Resilient School Support Program, and about a year ago, we applied with Texas Education Agency. And so the opportunity was only given to 40 school districts. And along with this program, we were able to work with a vendor, which is our consultants, and this is Direction. Direction is here with us, which is Carrie Briggs. She's going to take us through the work with involving surveys, stakeholder meetings, and then also some additional surveys where we've been getting feedback along the way, but we feel that after a year of completion of this work, we've really moved mountains, which is addressing the loss of learning. And then along with, and this survey was about the parents, the social emotional. So we have really touched a lot of topics that across the districts. So with these 40 districts, we've been able to network and hear that the concerns and questions and comments and thoughts that we've had here at Southwest, we have not been alone. We've been able to learn from best practices across the state and even nation because they're not in Texas, but we have been able to learn from amazing people. And so with us, we have a Direction, Carrie Briggs.
Thank you, Dalila. It's great to be with all of you tonight. I'm going to share my screen and just at the outset say how amazing it was to hear that early presentation with your police officers and the second chances for kids. That was so cool to see. So thank you for letting us be a part of that this evening. Dr. Verstuff, the school board, it's really a pleasure to work with your team. They are phenomenal. I think I talked to you several months ago and just want to continue echoing like the strength and professionalism they all bring to the job. Can you all see my screen okay and hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So just going to take you through a little bit of what the Resilient School Support Program is, provide an executive summary on kind of how we're thinking about the year ahead. And then we've got, time permitting, we've got additional data we can dive into, or it's in your board packet for you to review. So tonight we want to get just to share with you what we're thinking about instructionally. You just heard a really interesting discussion about children's mental state and the needs they're going to be bringing in, and emotionally. We also know they're going to be bringing some learning challenges and some great things they've learned, but no doubt some challenges as well. Love to hear your feedback on that plan as we present it tonight. So this past year, what we did is we focused a lot on virtual instruction. We thought, okay, all of our kids and teachers are in Zoom rooms. How are we going to make this meaningful? And so together we talked about student access, high quality learning, teacher capacity, trying to decide if parents were satisfied with the work, helping leaders, and building out the knowledge base on virtual instruction. And this year coming ahead, as we're able to bring kids back to campus, which I know we're all very excited about, now we need to accelerate learning and make sure that the environments they're in are supportive. And so I've been doing some really thoughtful, intentional, strategic planning work with the team these past few months, and I'm going to present some strategies we plan on using that tie in very nicely to the work we started with you all this past year, doing a lot of coaching into professional development. And as Lila mentioned, we love it when we can connect our districts to one another and bring what we're seeing in other places together to bear. And so here's the team again, just a super solid team you guys have built with Lila, Lisa, Dale, Zelene, Velia. I'm just thrilled to be able to work with them as the year continues. So this past year, one of the things we did, and you just kind of have to recognize up front that the situation was challenging. It was going to take a lot of ingenuity and resilience on the part of everyone involved, and that certainly was the case here. And we were alongside your team helping tackle those challenges. One of the things we did, I would call this past year a real learning year. So as teachers and kids moved online, we had to think about, well, how do we do professional development? How do we help people with professional learning communities? And so we created professional development modules. In this district alone, 3,800 professional development sessions were completed by your teachers, with 90% of them reporting that they were satisfied or highly satisfied with those opportunities. To me, that just speaks really to the intent of your teaching staff who want to be learners themselves and really just try to take this challenge head on. We were tracking outcomes, and so one of the things teachers told us is that they felt more proficient with a set of best practices in virtual instruction that we had defined. And so we were glad to hear that as the year went on, people felt more comfortable with that module. And so thinking about all of that, we did collect a lot of data from the team. We looked at student achievement data. We did surveys with parents and families. We did focus groups with teachers. We did survey teachers, and we did focus groups with school administrators, all to kind of learn from them, like how they felt about the year and what they needed coming in the year ahead. So what's needed? Looking at current year data, really thinking that we need to focus on 3rd and 6th grade. As you all know, those are critical kind of gating grades for students. Like 3rd grade is so important, 6th grade is so important. You really need a lot of support in math. That math piece is a national need. Everywhere we look, math is just really taking a hit. But it doesn't mean ELAR gets to be pushed aside. So we'll also be focusing on that. And you can kind of see some of the results from the district benchmark and where kids are. Our principals emphasize the need for teacher development on how to use and collect formative assessment to differentiate instruction. Terms of art in the field, but basically you want to know kind of what are kids learning on a more regular basis, and then what do we do about that? How do I adjust a classroom instruction when I've got some kids who totally understand the standard completely and other kids who need more help? So we're going to help teachers know how to differentiate their instruction. So the kinds of students, or the students we're going to prioritize, like I said, 3rd and 6th grade, more intentional support with a couple of schools in the district, Indian Creek and McCullough. Just based on their needs, we're going to prioritize those 2 schools more intentionally. And then like one of the things I'm just really excited about, Dalila has this vision for creating a core instructional framework for Southwest ISD. We started on that, gosh, January or February, I think, and kind of came up with a set of instructional strategies that are both like completely solid in terms of research showing that they matter for kids and will move the needle for kids, and that can be aligned to work in the classroom. The 3 of those strategies we're going to prioritize this year ahead: teacher clarity, scaffolding, and small group learning. So those will be the things we focus on together as we help kids accelerate their learning in the year ahead. And that was really the bulk of the presentation I wanted to give to you tonight. Like I said, we have some supporting data if you want to dive into it, but this right here kind of shows you what we're going to be collectively working on together with your team in the year ahead. Happy to take questions. Leila, if I missed anything you wanted me to highlight.
Questions?
Oh, it's good. Very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Harry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to see
start.
you. Bye.
Okay. Increase in adult meal prices.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna invite up Winston Gatlin. Come on up, sir. I'm gonna go over next year's meal prices.
Good evening, Dr. Parsons, School Board. Child Nutrition is requesting to increase adult meal prices for breakfast and lunch for this school year, which is normal every school year. One thing that's kind of not normal is there was a national waiver for child nutrition operations. It's also allowing us to do the seamless summer option this school year, which will allow all kids to eat for free, which we already do that, but we will also get 100% free rate, which in CEP, we're getting 96.96%, close to 100%, but we will get 100%. But also with this waiver, they're allowing us to use the summer feeding service program rates, which is a higher rate. It's going to be basically about 70 cents higher for lunch and 20 cents higher for breakfast. So we'll get more money, which is going to cause the prices for adults even go up more than normal. So right now, we have to use a child nutrition adult price worksheet to determine the price. For lunch, it's $4.86 is what the worksheet determines. So we're recommending to raise the price to $4.90 for lunch. For breakfast, it's $2.93 for breakfast, and we're recommending to raise it to $3. So on both of these, you have to take the reimbursement rate plus any food commodity rate, and we have to at least charge more than that. So if we change these prices to $3.90 for lunch and $3 for breakfast, then we will comply with the regulation and we'll be in compliance at those rates.
And it's already,
We have to do it.
do we give free lunch already or we don't?
Yes.
Yes.
So
This is just for adults. The
Okay.
students are gonna get free
Also-
lunch, but basically, because we're having to do that, there's some federal guidelines that we have to set a certain
So
rate.
that's part of the compliance.
I know we should,
we have to charge.
but he
adults
always
at
just
least
goes
as
up
much,
the absolute, he
cost
has
for-
to.
It's still cheaper than a Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not as good though.
Well, I mean, everything has.
Come on, sir. Winston's right
I
here.
didn't say that.
That was a good example.
So the waiver is just for 21-22 school year. So the next school year of 2023, we can go back to CEP at the percentage for one more year and then up to CEP.
Questions?
And no action needed.
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Gatt. Okay, district leadership assessment status.
Yes, sir. So we have Dr. McClellan is going to go to the podium, and I think she has a PowerPoint to bring up. As part of our continuation into moving to year 5 of what's called a 5-year partnership with Holdsworth. We are moving to more of an advisory role, which means we're going to have checkpoints with some of the folks from Holdsworth. During the past 4 years, we've had an opportunity to really kind of lean into and really work with staff to set up structures in our district when it comes to identifying talent, creating a administrative pipeline, kind of build our own here in Southwest ISD, distributed leadership, MCLs on the campus. So a number of things. And what Holdsworth does in working as an external partner with us is they provide an annual assessment of the district where they actually go out and conduct surveys, pretty comprehensive surveys with different categories of employees. And so Dr. McClellan is going to kind of run through, I think, the high points of the annual assessment that we just completed, and we have results back, just to kind of give the board an idea of what responses were year 1, what they look like year 2, and how they pretty much look going into year 4 and then now going to year 5. Then we have some other information about the MDOS role, which is a really big part of kind of cultivating, supporting leadership. And I know some of you are getting other information, which I'll definitely be willing to have any conversation individually with anyone. But I'd like to ask Dr. McClellan if she would go through this PowerPoint so we can kind of share with you kind of some aggregate information that we're receiving from different categories of employees here. So with that, if you'll go, Leslie.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, board president, board of trustees, Dr. Verstaff, senior staff. I'm excited to be here today to provide you a high-level overview of the 2021 district talent assessment. So as you are aware, we are now entering our 5th year partnership with the Holdsworth Center, a nonprofit organization that helps Texas public school districts grow their pipeline of outstanding leaders so that teachers thrive and students excel on every campus across our district. Based on our partnership, this graphic informs what we are hoping to achieve as a district. So the journey begins with this bottom piece of the pyramid that's all about building a foundation of stronger leaders. Both the District Leaders Program and the Campus Leaders Program is designed to provide and develop personal leadership, growth, and empower others, and really create change. The middle tier that you'll see here is around reflecting on building stronger systems. And so that is done by developing a pipeline of ready leaders and an engaged district-wide culture so that ultimately we have stronger results and lead toward the peak of excellent and equitable student outcomes. As mentioned, the Holdsworth Timeline for our partnership is 5 years and launched in the summer of 2017 with the District Leaders Program, which was a 2-year program. The Campus Leaders Program launched the first cohort in 2018 and have been adding additional cohorts every year. The last group of campuses were selected this spring, and we're excited to announce that Elm Creek, Medio Creek, and McCullough Middle School will be among the schools part of the last cohort of CLP campuses. At the end of our partnership next year, we will have had 9 of our campuses participate in the CLP program, one of which was recognized this year in a pandemic as a recognized Blue Ribbon Beacon School. Now we're going to take a look at a few of the highlights from the spring 2021 assessment. So the goal of the assessment really is to support the district to take stock of the progress made in our partnership with Holdsworth over the past year and to make decisions about how to continue to progress towards the district's leadership vision for our development systems. This year's assessment focused on measuring the effects of the work the district has actively pursued with the support of Holdsworth. So the 4 prioritized areas this year were principal supervision, high potential identification and development, distributed leadership practices and multi-classroom leaders, and AP and principal evaluation and coaching. These 4 prioritized areas align with the areas that you see here highlighted in yellow. And as you can see, the arrows pointing up across each area indicates that we have growth over the past year in every prioritized area. This is a cause for celebration, and a big thank you to all of you for your support throughout this partnership. The opportunity now for our district is to reflect on the successes and challenges from this year of implementation and utilize our lessons learned so that we're able to refine and ensure that all staff are engaged in high quality development. The talent assessment surfaced 2 key findings as they relate to the projects that were assessed this year. The first one recognizes the work done to identify high potential leaders and a few recommendations on the path forward, one of which we have already started to focus on. The second is focused on principal support and also includes a few recommendations. Which leads us to the engagement data we received. Over 800 staff members completed the spring assessment this year, which includes 90% of current principals. What is important to highlight here is that you will notice the dark green cells and the block around 2021 in principal data. Those dark green cells signify that compared to all of the other districts that Holdsworth works with and partners with, we are serving as a model for principal support and what that can look like to ensure strong principal engagement across the district. Our overall principal engagement is also a 79, which is up 10 points from 2017. And the overall engagement index increased for all staff groups across the board. As mentioned, this year's assessment focused on 4 prioritized areas, one of which is principal supervision. In the focus groups that were conducted in the spring of principals, the following trends and comments surfaced. This year, I'm being coached by my MDOS. I am developing in my role as a principal and completely being supported. It's been very different from the past years. My growth as a leader and my ability to lead others has just transformed this year. Having the MDOS role helps us to get more support from central office. She is the funnel of dissemination from central office. We are more in communication and clear on what central office is asking. The district has really created a role to support principals. This person really challenges our thinking and pushes us to think outside the box rather than just to do things the way they've always been done. Those comments serve as reinforcement that principals feel supported. It is exciting to see the data change dramatically from 2017 to 2019 and across to 2021, across the 5 different questions. We are also working through a process so that we can make changes in how we at central office see our work and refocus our efforts on the support we provide campuses. Our third prioritized area that we focused on was AP and principal evaluation and coaching. The evaluation tool was based on our district leadership commitments, and this is the first year when all principals and APs were involved in the new evaluation. The MDOS role helped principal evaluation be a success for this year. We were able to make the shift from evaluation conversations happening a few times a year to a regular cadence of meetings with each principal that was focused on principal growth. I would like to bring your attention here to the big shift for principals from red to green, bypassing yellow and orange ratings across the 3 questions. 80% of the 90% of principals who took the survey said that when they are evaluated, they understand their results and how the results are determined. Another prioritized area is high potential identification and development. And we're really excited about the work progress that we've made during our first year of implementation. The high potential work focuses on identifying leaders who are within 1 to 3 years of moving into a leadership role and providing them with job embedded opportunities to ensure that we have a pipeline of ready leaders. Our fourth prioritized area is distributed leadership and multi-classroom leaders. The two key findings denote that both the distributed leadership model and the MCL role have created opportunities for staff to take on meaningful leadership responsibilities and own their own outcomes for their school. That was a lot. I want to thank you again for your support in this endeavor, and I want to ask if you have any questions, any clarifying questions or comments that you'd like to make.
I have a couple of questions. How many times did the MDOS meet with each principal throughout the year?
I don't have that data with me, but I can get that to you.
Did we set up a parameter for the MDOS as far as that's concerned? When she started in her role, did we give her, you need to meet, I don't know, 6 times a year or every 6 weeks, or was she given any guidance in that respect?
We did set up the 80% the MDOS going to be on campus. Because the whole idea behind developing the role was
Right.
going to be a campus-driven role, and actually it's home-based at Indian Creek Elementary,
Mhm.
the office, just to kind of add to that this person's going to be on campus. I don't know every number, but I can tell you that I met one-on-one with every principal, and I do reflect the principal of Meadow Creek. Told me it was 8 different times through the year.
I'm interested in seeing the data for all of the schools. And also, I noticed that in the feedback form that you gave us, a lot of the answers were very subjective. Everything was very subjective. So did we collect any objective data in direct relation to the work that the MDOS was doing with the principals?
So we have quantitative data that was collected, and I can get that for you. I don't supervise that role, so I can give you what my department has collected. So I'd be happy to do that.
And so the MDOS was then responsible for sharing those metrics or that objective data with the principals, like where you're at, where I guess together where do we need to be, that kind of stuff?
Correct.
Is that correct?
So I don't supervise that
Okay.
role. And so my role with this is to gather quantitative data, to gather qualitative data, and to ensure that we're moving in the direction of continuous improvement as it relates to talent management. And so the principal supervision was one of the work streams that came through talent management, but we did not supervise that role.
Right.
Was there any data that contributed to like missed opportunities or to where we could have improved anywhere? It seems like there's a lot of oh, we're doing great, but was there any missed opportunities where the structure didn't fit in one school, and then so we got to change it a little bit to make it fit our school better or fit a principal better?
The structure of principal supervision?
Yeah, supervision or AP to get the principal up to the standard that we want them to be according to Holdsworth.
Yeah, I think I can answer that too. There was 2. I know that when we look at our data in our APs, we know we have lots of growth there with the training and opportunities to lead to a principalship. Because if you look at the data, that's where we see that we have some growth that needs to happen, and with our commitments to the things that were going on. As far as the principal supervision, and our data is, and Delia's here, and Dr. Faye's not here. Not every principal had a 100% full-time principal supervisor. We had some that had the MDOS the whole time, and then some that had to have an assistant superintendent with a lot of stuff on their plates. And so I think that was something that we looked at. And I think it's what we brought the last time to create those new positions to expand that.
I'm mostly interested in seeing the data that supports the MDOS work, right? So I understand that some principals didn't get an MDOS.
Yeah.
So, and also the data that supports the position of the MDOS directly, right? Because we know that some of the improvements have to do with the work that we've been doing as a team for, all these years now, right? So we've been moving in this direction for a while. So I guess I'm trying to separate the value added by this one position.
So what quantitative number do you want for that?
Well, whatever, however the district measures it.
So I think the whole plan has always been that we want to hold the craft of principles. We want to do it in this kind of arena of a growth mindset that, yeah, we all have
Yes.
opportunities for improvement.
Absolutely.
And we want to celebrate and champion what's going right, but we also want to address what more we can do. So a lot of it has been really engaging conversations and asking thought-provoking questions. Now, that's the same question over time. The objective data, the objective metrics, if you look at the top of the pinnacle, is student outcomes. Now,
right,
with the pandemic weighing on us, we're going to have a new baseline. I don't think we're going to be able to come with that objective, because I think that you're talking about, show me where the youth did good because of this investment. What's the return on our investment? That's what I'm assuming.
Well, ultimately, but right now it's really only your impact on the principals because it takes time for all that to trickle down, right? So I'm really, not necessarily saying, oh, the student outcomes should be happening this moment. I'm thinking more of the principal outcomes, right? And their, objective growth is opposed to subjective.
I have a question. Do we have the same leadership support plan for all of the schools, or are they designed based on the particular school and what the needs are?
So at the beginning,
As far as leadership is concerned.
So since we had one managing director of schools, then Dr. Frey and myself decided to take on a group of schools. And the one thing that we did learn is that creating an early collaborative structure for all the campuses. And this way we would have the conversations going on when it comes to the accountability, the instruction, and the DOS. And this way we are supporting the DOS role, the managing director. So the way we did is we did align, like the campuses that I oversaw had a lot of other additional plans that they had to create for the state. And so with Dr. Fay, we went ahead and gave her all of the high schools. So like that it would be aligned work. And so we were trying to be purposeful with the needs of the campuses. So one of the things that we did learn, and I think we kind of like reshifted in November, but we learned that the more people at the table having conversations with the principal, we can easily not only identify the need, but bring in the resources that were going to be purposeful and on time, instead of there being like a lot of like other further conversation. And so that's one of the things that I know that in the conversations that I was having with my principals, that, just having the people right there, instead of me having to turn around and repeat the needs of the campuses, just creating that collaborative structure, we felt that it was just a lot more beneficial versus, having individual conversations. Sometimes it does merit the one-on-one conversations, which is like evaluation time, or you want to redirect the principal one-on-one, but creating those collaborative structures in order for there to be that unity of the entire work,
of the
in
team.
order for all of us to have that shared responsibility as we are moving this work.
And when did that start?
I believe we started the structure with these particular campuses. And I think maybe November, that's when we went ahead and started creating this collaborative structure for all of the campuses. So we were looking at data, then we were like, not wait just for these campuses, but we knew that this need happened across all the elementaries, all the middle schools, and all the high schools.
There are some of the objective opportunities. I'm thinking while Julia was talking. So I know one of the objectives is every campus achieve their federal expenditures to the level where we want them to for the first time this past year, which was a big deal. Part of what we hear from principals, and I'll say it too, I've been in the business 32 years, is the finance side of this is really hard to understand, because you have federal money, you have state money, local money, and what can you expend your money on this code or that code. And so part of the process will help our principals with that. One of the metrics we look at for the first time, and I don't know if Francis could speak to it, for the first time, we looked at data that showed every one of our campuses did their federal expenditures to the level where we would want them to as part of rolling over, which means students have more opportunity to have services provided to them versus just rolling funds over to the next year.
Which is a good thing, because in past years, which is a good thing because in past years we've had,
leftover.
Yeah, we've had a lot of money left over, which means they're not using it to their, taking advantage of it.
In addition to that, we have an outside evaluator that comes in. He also works for the TEA as an auditor. And he said that this year's compliance of documentation and minutes for meetings was the best it's been since he's ever worked. And he actually uses us as an example district to other districts.
Francis, were you involved in that work or was it just the MDOS?
No, Nicole and I partner up on just about everything. So she has standing meetings with principals every 2 weeks. And so if I have an issue, I bring it to her first so that we have a shared language. And then we go through and we will sometimes meet with the principal together, or if she has a plan to work with them, I'll work with her first and then she'll take the plan to them. And it worked beautifully this year. We were able to get a lot of work with our combined effort done quickly.
So does that apply to all of the principals or only the principals that were under her?
Well, I also do the same thing with
Okay.
Dalila, and then I meet with each of the principals
Just wanted to know
too,
if it
but
applied
I
across the
will
board.
say that this was Nicole's first year, the MDOS's first year doing it, and she took the reins and really ran with it. I had no issues, and I believe the principals really enjoyed the support. I was also a part of the AP training to get them trained up on compliance and documentation and budgeting, and that came back with a lot of emails. They appreciate the opportunity to take on those different roles and learn different things to prepare themselves to be principals.
But it's not perfect.
Yeah, and-
I can promise.
Lord, we may want to look into finding a metric for our superintendent as far as leadership development, leadership building, so that we don't cross that fine line of, micromanaging. So I think all this entailed, falls under you when we look at it. So we may want to look at maybe creating a metric, a goal or something when it comes to this due process. I know we're in the very young stages of this process. And I think we're all on board. And we need to maybe come up with a goal for you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
so much. Okay. That was under elementary school grading periods.
Yes, we have met with the principals, the elementary principals, and so maybe back in August, they wanted to do a reformatting of what we currently have, which is a six weeks grading period. And so back in August, it was a little late because we already have our calendars that had been board approved. We already had the school calendar that we had already printed and sent through. So this time we're early. And so we've already checked with every single division to make sure that us moving the 6 weeks grading period to 9 weeks, that we have everything, all the structures in place. So when it comes to just the system in place, the calendars, we're good to go. We were able to meet with the district improvement team. And so we've been able to have conversations with the principals. So we are recommending, we are actually just informing that we feel that it's a good move. So this way we can have all the pre-K through 12th grade system. We have a 9 weeks grading system versus having just the elementaries in the 6 weeks and then the secondaries in the 9 weeks. So we feel that the systems are in place. We can definitely support this ask from the principals. And so that is something that we wanted to just inform the board that next school year, we will be having 9 weeks grading periods across elementary, middle school, and high school.
So Dr. Verstaff, I'm sure you might be able to illuminate me. In the years that I've been here, we go back and forth between 6 weeks and 9 weeks. Have we ever figured out like what is I mean, I'm all for 9 weeks. I think it's less work for everybody in the long run, but like which one is better? Like, why do we keep going back and forth, I guess is the question.
That was my exact thought too.
When was the last time we changed?
Like, do we get bored?
When
When did we go to 6 weeks?
the ED of elementary brought it forth,
Yeah, I think it's 4 or 5 years.
maybe,
ago.
yes, around 5 years.
We
ago.
looked at this and I told staff, this is the question that comes up, right? Because we're bringing it to you again. So we did have that conversation too. And you're right. We came to you to request going to 6 weeks because it created another large grading opportunity. And so the average would be the benefit students, correct? Under the 6 week model. Now going to 9-week, what the conversations we have, I told them, if we go to our board, and we go back to 9 weeks, and then the failure rate goes up, then that means we didn't make a student-driven decision. I have not seen research that says there's one 6-week versus 9-week is going to have a significant difference. What we're building into the process, though, to the 9-week, which is why I think we said, okay, let's take it to the board, is that we're going to require those parent-family connections during those intervals of 3 weeks. So parents are going to receive something the 3rd week, the 6th week, and then the report card on the 9th week. The reason we asked to go to 6 weeks is because staff at that point in time in CNI felt the additional average into, instead of averaging 2 major grades for a semester grade, you'll be averaging 3, and it would benefit the students. Did the retention drop somewhat at that point in time? We did look at that, but not significantly to say that 9 weeks would work even.
So whatever-
4 to 5 years.
So whatever negatives come from the 9-week period, we're making decisions, it's gonna mitigate that.
Yeah, I don't know if you.
Well, and we're looking at the process that we currently have in place, which is within a 6-week grading period, we get the 3rd week progress report. Within the 9 weeks, we make sure that we will be able to send out a 3-week progress report and a 6 weeks progress report, and then the 9 weeks they'll get the report cards. In addition to that, because of the investments and due to COVID, we're not going to change the scope and sequence for elementary. And what we are asking campuses to do is for them to own, which is progress monitoring, which has been big, something that we've learned that maybe we do not have in place as structured and as
5
strong
years
as we
ago.
have it now, where like progress monitoring is happening. And that is something that, you know, we can say that it is going on. And so we feel that the structures that we currently have in place are in place to support even having this move. So I know that the conversation with the principals was, we are not going to go back and invest in a summer curriculum writing, because we've already spent a lot of money doing that. But right now we feel that we will keep the 6-week scope and sequence. This way we're measuring at the 6 weeks. We will measure at the 3rd week, we will measure at the 6th week, and we will measure at the 9th week.
Got
So
it.
it's almost every 3 weeks, we should be having some sort of data. This way the kids are not following through, but we are having constant conversations. So we feel that the processes that the campuses and the districts have in place to monitor the data, we have a pretty robust
strong.
system in place.
But what's really unique now too, it's different than 5 years ago, because parents have access, daily access to your.
Yes.
as well,
You're right.
Which we did not have. So
Yeah.
moving to the 9 weeks, and making sure our families have that access, they're using it, we're providing opportunities to make sure it's always updated.
Updated, yeah. Okay.
Well, and I think right now with the fact that we are reintegrating so many students back into the classroom, you know, and the interventions that we're gonna have to do, it may facilitate a
Longer period.
more longer period for them to bring those grades up.
And that's exactly what our elementary principal mentioned, you know, that this under period of time with COVID, it's a situation that is not like 5 years ago. But what we are ensuring is that that monitoring is going to be in place.
But it is confusing, you know, when the original question is like, I'm wondering if everyone out there is doing it and we have to do the same thing if it's ordered from TA. I didn't know, you know, what the purpose of changing it so many times was.
It was brought, I think, brought forward by principals.
Yes.
Elementary principals who,
Different principles.
currently, right now, we have our secondary on one, and elementary on another, because we thought if there was a first grading that didn't go so well, students still had a chance to bring it up. And I remember that conversation well. I remember that when we came and asked you to go to 6 weeks back in the day.
Yeah.
And then within the 9-week one, it gives you the 3 extra weeks to catch it, so it's.
Yeah,
about the same
it's a
thing.
wash.
Yeah.
It can be a wash. It's how we handle it.
Really, what happened?
So like I told Dr. Versa, we're not stretching anything because we still have just 36 weeks to teach.
Yeah.
And so the scope and sequence is now going to be how we monitor, you know,
Everything.
the students.
Mhm.
the students' data.
Thank
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8, we'll do later. Item 9, administrative and human resources, consider approval of building leadership capacity to advance equity in our district.
Yes, sir. We have Mr. Will Baker, the Director of HR, and he's been pointing on us, I think all along, especially about the favor option. So Will's going to present the item.
Good evening, board members. President Vasquez, thank you very much. We have been engaged in training with the Leadership Academy over the last year addressing equity. It's been very powerful training. The goal is to confront inequities and create the conditions necessary for all of our students to thrive. And so in working with the Leadership Academy, they help us build culturally responsive and equitable learning environments that serve all students. They work with districts across the state and across the country. What we'd like to do is continue our training with them. They can see an outline of that. In the next year, we'll have another full group PD session with our district leadership, and then we'll go into small group coaching. This has been very powerful. I've been in a small group all year, and really, that's where we really get in the nitty gritty of talking about the issues around equity. They were going to do some mid-school year walkthroughs. They're going to do some small group coaching with senior staff, and then some one-on-one with Dr. Verstaff. I don't know if you want to speak to that and what that involves.
I can just say my experience this past year in working, I'll just say it, Mary Rice Group has been one of the most phenomenal one-on-one opportunities, really helping understand as a leader what I should look at when we look at metrics to make sure we do have equity, make sure we have outcomes that are equitable, that we're supporting all students in our system and all adults in our system. And so, yeah, it's been really unique to be in small group and to work with senior staff in an arena that is really about who we are and what drives us and how do we make sure our system is inclusive of every human being that lives within our school zone, but also that we come in contact with. But yeah, it's been, I would say it's been one of the highlight trainings, and it's not a one and done.
We should do it.
It's a journey. We started it this past year, and I think there are many districts who are starting to work in this, but I think that Southwest is definitely one of the front leaders in really stepping into this arena and really taking advantage of the training.
So with your permission, we'd like to continue next year. It's a contract for $136,000 to get all those services. And we're asking the board to approve it.
I move.
So
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Just a quick question. Is it just upper tier administration right now, or how far down the organization are we going with the training right now?
we hit all the leadership, campus leadership, district leadership around.
And are those the only people that are gonna be exposed in this following year, or are we gonna keep drilling down?
I think the plan is to work with leadership and we drill down with the folks.
They drill down with the staffs, okay.
And the campuses also have budget, and from what they learned from this, they can create their own program as well, that kind of have the tentacles of this training.
Okay.
Go even deeper this year.
And they'll have access to the organization that helped y'all, right? Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes. Lord, maybe we can look into getting a little taste of it ourselves.
Good idea.
What? Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Maybe a brown bag or something. We'll have to pretty much give them the whole brown bag. Okay. That's all we had for administration and human resources, I see. Business and finance. Consider approval of RFQ on bond underwriting services.
Yes, sir. And to prepare for future refunding opportunities that we have coming up, and also possible bonds as we look at our demographer and our study in the future of what our needs. We had a syndicate of bond underwriters that we approved previous of the 2012 bond. And so it's it was a group that was very good for us, but at the same time, it's been basically it's an old RFQ. And so we went out for bid and released an RFQ. We received 22 vendors. It's a lot of banking and investors. And on June 1st. And so we ranked them on a criteria that we put in the RFQ. It basically dealt with stability, size of the firm, technical experience with school districts, and taking down negotiations and competitive sales, all the things that we were looking for. And so we ranked them, and we have our vendors that are the top 8 that we're recommending to the board today. I want to read something from the RFQ because in this business, things change, banks get sold, move on, bankers that we use leave firms. And so within the RFQ, we put in there some stipulations as we move forward, that if something happens and we no longer feel like that firm is a quality firm for us, that we could remove them from the syndicate. At the same time, we can add firms. And so within that RFQ, they signed off on that. The other piece of this is we have a pool of about 8 that we would like to use. And as we move forward, doesn't mean they all, because we have to determine how many we're going to do, refunding and bonds, and there only may be so many. So some of them we even get in the pool may not be used at all.
Right.
And so tonight we're bringing the board a recommendation for to the board to approve Raymond James, Hilltop Securities, Piper Sandler, Frost Bank, BOK Financial, RBC Capital, FHN Financial, and Baird for bond underwriting services. With the stipulation, though, that the district reserves the right to add or remove firms as we see fit. This would be for a period of 5 years, and then we could add additional 2 years. But in the 5 years, if we feel like we want to restructure, we can. But at the same time, we have the ability within the structure to add or remove firms if we see there's a need.
Which ones have we used before too?
The ones that are on here that we used before are Raymond James, Hilltop, Piper Sandler, and FHN Financial. Those are the 4 that were actually in our previous syndicate.
So we're adding the other.
We're adding the other 4 that scored really well.
I'll move. Give a motion and second, and understanding the motion is for these 8 with the stipulation of allowing Brandon or the board to add or remove. Everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Change order number 2.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna bring up Mr. Barajas. He's gonna present number 2.
Good evening. What I'm presenting is a consideration of approval for change order number 2 and the reinstallation of the millwork. Y'all can remember last month we brought in the build back of all the gypsum, miscellaneous electrical flooring. One number that we didn't have then was the millwork build back portion of it. By now, CANCON has provided a proposal to begin the reinstallation of the millwork in the areas affected by February's winter storm. All of this is, again, to put back everything that Black & Morning, the remediation company, needed to remove in order to dry out the space. Lpa Architects have prepared change order number 2 to increase the GMP contract amount of the Southwest High School Phase 3 renovation. And I do have a correction, it's $69,502. I had that number before. Sorry, on Thursday, and I got a revise of $502 on Friday.
And the insurance will
That
cover
is,
it.
that is.
Yeah. It'll be covered by insurance, but it's because it's a change order of the contract. We needed to reflect, and I'll send a new memo, 69,502.
Do we think that's a good price?
I thought it was gonna be higher.
Yeah, so did we.
Nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of it is specialty
Millwork.
millwork for the
Millwork right
sign
now is
slabs.
really high.
So our recommendation is that the board approve change order number 2 to CANCON to increase the GMP contract amount to the Southwest High School Phase 3 renovation project in the amount of $69,502.
I move. Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Southwest High School abatements. Go ahead.
So again, as part of the winter storm, it is standard protocol for the remediation company to go and perform what's called an LAS, which is a limited asbestos survey. What this survey showed was that there were some limited areas that had asbestos, and that was in the glue of the VCT. And this was the original 1982 project. Asbestos got phased out in 84. EPA and Texas Department of State Health Services regulations state that exposure may only occur when the asbestos containing material is disturbed and in some way released particles and fibers. Because of Southwest High School Phase 3, some of these areas, we needed to remove the VCT. So we're phased to do that abatement and remediation process. SWISD staff requested proposals from 3 different licensed abatement companies. Bear Environmental Inc., who we've used before, was a sole bidder of this project, and the proposal amount was $55,000. This will be funded by fund balance, and our recommendation is that the board approve Bear Environmental to perform the Southwest High School abatement scope for the areas receiving renovation work this summer in the amount not to exceed $55,000.
I move.
I second.
Motion second, any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item D, motion passes. Item D, consider approval of SR3 federal grant application.
I'm back.
It's gonna be a hard one for you all to decide.
So for this one, we would like to recommend the board approve the submission of the SR3 grant application based on the plan that was dictated in the public hearing today and sent out and posted on the website. This is for the 2021-22 school year.
I move.
Second.
A motion, a second to accept 32 million, almost 33 billion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, motion passes. Consider approval of ESSA consolidated federal grant application for CNI.
I am also here to present, ask for recommendations for the board to approve the submission of the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant for Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV for the 2021-22 school year based on the plan that was demonstrated and exhibited not only on at the public hearing, but also posted to our website.
I move.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 11A, consider approval of purchase of instructional materials, CNI.
Yes, we are here to request approval for 3 different instructional materials using our instructional material allotment. The first one is for the pre-K systems. So we received a grant, but this is to offset for what the grant is not going to be able to cover, which is for $47,000. And then for the K through 5th grade math, the TEA decided that the math curriculum was not going to be, we're not going to be able to adopt a new math curriculum. So we're going to have to make a purchase for the next years. So that will be for $440,000. It is currently our resource that we use, which is called Envision. And then yearly we come to the board for approval for the K-12 science curriculum, which is called STEM scopes, which is for the total of $622,000 using our instructional material allotment. So again, requesting for the board to approve.
I
I move. I second.
We have a motion and a second.
He has a question.
Is there a question?
I just want to make sure the number added up right.
Okay.
Is it the 622, the total of 3?
Yes, sir.
So that's, we can put the.
I can tell you right now, it's less. It's less.
Motion.
Sounds good.
Whatever the total is, I mean.
What is the new total? It's
Apologize
five
for the
something, I can
pennies.
tell you right
No, we will back in.
It just, I move with the adjustment.
now. Okay.
I'm asking.
It looks like it's. Brenda's good with decimals.
Okay.
Yeah, 622.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes, thank you. You have one more thing, Dr. Versta?
Yes, sir. As you know, we have a pretty robust Smart Start, what we call our summer school program that includes fine arts. So it's like, we'll send this out to the board, to you guys, but on The 17th, the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, there will be a number of fine arts performances, and you're invited to attend any of these. I don't want to go through them individually, but it includes mariachi, band, theater, dance theater, visual arts. And so
Thank you.
we have a lot of students engaged and involved.
Yes, so we were projecting for 5,000, I think we're like at 46.
Elementary to middle high school that are attending school on a regular basis. in Southwest. The most robust we've done to date. So it'd be nice to, if you guys can make any of these. I know they're during the day. A couple of them are in the evening, but.
Those are when it's summer leadership.
Oh, this is already?
How Mona knows you really well.
Oh, we're gonna
One
be
more
a
thing
train.
is 1 through
Yeah, we're
6.
not,
Next week.
Okay,
We could be the
thank
next
you.
week.
That's right, we do have this a lot.
we have
That's a
SLI,
nice
yeah.
idea. That's an
On
easy
Thursday.
one.
I can attend the ones next week. but-
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any other one items? That's it? Okay, allow me to read this. As permitted by sections 551.001 551.146 of the Texas Government Code. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 and 551.072, we will now go into closed session at 8:16. Call this meeting back to order at 9:15.
I move that we approve the recommendation of the superintendent on personnel.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. There's no discussion on properties, so other than that, is there other business?
Just would like to make an introduction, introduce our newest assistant superintendent for administration, human resource, and congratulations, Ms. Francis Larson. I'd also like to take this opportunity to introduce Ms. San Marie. She was approved at the last board meeting. She is our coordinator for community outreach.
Samantha. Said Anne Marie.
Sam.
Call her. I
You
think
you
said
call
Anne Marie.
yourself Sam? Okay, so we can call her Sam.
Yeah. All right.
Anything else?
All we have.
He already gave us the one more thing.
Okay, we do have a regular July meeting. We have an SLI.
This starts Wednesday.
Yeah, but no brown bag, right? But no brown bag.
No brown bag in July.
Okay.
We do have a meeting. is that what-
Yeah, we do have a meeting in July,
Meeting
the
closed at
third week of July.
9:17.